the classic room is we might as well just call it the punk rock room.
Right.
You know, the metal room.
Mm-hmm. Great room
You know
to
what I'm
take
saying?
pictures in.
Oh my gosh, trust
Mhm.
me. Trust me, it is. See, but that's not bad. That's not bad at all. So we can definitely handle that. All right. So welcome. I am Rob Wallace, and this is the Zero Noise Podcast, where we engage in progressive discussions about music, life, and everything in between with our guests. This podcast is brought to you by Grove Studios, the 24/7 artist and production workspace. Whether rehearsing for your next show, producing a new song, doing a podcast, or shooting a video, Grove Studios is set up for the independent creator. Right now, Grove is offering subscriptions that can help you get your project or next creation going. To learn more, visit grovestudios.space. This podcast is produced by Project Plugin and shared with all streaming platforms through Captivate. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you are hearing or seeing the podcast. And this is the beginning of our second season of the Zero Noise Podcast. We've decided to do audio only this year, to focus on the medium of audio.
And to reduce the editing time.
Yes. And we can put more out. We can put more out. Last year we put out 16. And this year, we're looking to double or triple that. So I'm also joined by some fantastic people who I will talk about. If this is the first time that you've heard you won't see this podcast, but you will hear it. I listen to a lot of music, a crap load of music. I've heard a lot of music. I've heard more music than just about everybody else I know. Art is not valuable if it does not challenge, or if it does not ask, or if it does not respond. In my opinion, music decorates time as art decorates space. I ask great people to come and talk to me. They talk about who they've been and where they've been and what they do. I ask them to be ready to discuss an album that played a role in them becoming them. You won't hear the music we'll discuss for many reasons, but you will never hear it the same afterwards. Therefore, this is a music podcast, but it's a people's podcast first. And today, the people, you see how I cut out all that pretentious stuff we talked about last year. Today, the people are Ki5 Loops and Lorian Janine from the Amplify Fellowship. And the album is Untitled for both of them. As of yet, we haven't got that far.
That's right.
We are working on it. We are working in that direction. Welcome to the Zero Noise Podcast. Let me give you a hand for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So, where do we start? I think we start with the Amplify Fellowship first, and we talk about what that is a little bit, and then we get into who the two of you are. I'm also joined tonight by the co-founder of the Amplify Fellowship, what is it called? The rudder, in a way, on the ship.
The steering committee.
The steering committee, the creative director, Miss Maia Evans. Thank you for being here, Maia.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you,
Happy
thank
to
you,
be
thank
here.
you. Snaps, okay. So the Amplify Fellowship, for those of you who don't know, was a program that was started in 2020 after a summer of unrest, a summer of questions, a summer of struggles. It began as some questions that were being asked by the good folks at Leon Speakers, of which Maia is a part of, and Maia, on behalf of Leon Speakers, began to consider what could be done. What is something that could be created that could assist people in continuing to move forward in many different ways. And what Maia considered was going and reaching out to the area to find out what kind of musical opportunities there were. And one of the ideas she had was a fellowship.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a... Rod and I consider ourselves parents.
Yes, absolutely.
There was a lot of ideas kind of floating around at the time.
Yes.
And a lot of it was arts-based because at Leon, we like to funnel our efforts like arts in the area as well as. But what we really wanted to focus on was already in the area to be able to benefit those who are already doing the work. Because it wasn't our time to like go out and make a huge statement and be the answer, right? Like the answer is already here. We just need to elevate that to lift that up, and that's where kind of the word amplify comes from.
Absolutely.
Being an audio equipment, having Grove, Grove Studios is just incredibly accessible and entrenched in the Ypsilanti community in general. So that seemed like a natural partnership. Is that Ypsilanti needs a little love, and that's where we wanted to put the majority of our resources.
I completely agree. And I think that even if, not to go too deep, but I think even when we go back to that period, there were a lot of people who made statements. There were a lot of people who came out with these social media posts that says, you know, we stand with African American people as they fight against police brutality, and we stand with this and we stand with that. And my whole thing was always, can you create something that will stand the test of time? Can you create something that is going to last? And programming does that. Programming does that. Funding does that to a degree if it's strategic and it's, you know, it wasn't, I wouldn't have been here and been involved if I felt like it was only a 1 year kind of thing. And we've had the privilege of getting a lot of great support, a lot of growth, not necessarily in the amount of people, but, you know, we still want to go there, you know, grow in that direction. But the amount of support that we've had from not only the music community, but the philanthropic community, as well as just the educational community and the civic community, it's become kind of the badge that I wear as I go about. But none of it would have been possible last year if we didn't have three fantastic individuals who we worked with. Danny Darling, who released The Future in June. And I think I remember the date. It was June 25th when she released hers. And before that, we had Kenyatta Rashawn, who released The Art of Keeping It Real on June 18th.
Oh, okay, yep.
See, it was such a seminal moment.
London also had had their Pride show on June 18th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And then London Beck released the Black Satin Sessions on June 11th. We had an opportunity to capture those entire projects. I was able to serve as executive producer of all three, but principally my role was just to simply say, what do you need here? You know, and I cherish that opportunity. They did a fantastic job in overseeing their own projects. So, you know, we took a little bit of time off. Life happened. Life, continued to move forward. And we began an application process in September. We had a lot of great applicants. I remember the conversations that we had going through those applicants. And we chose some finalists, and those finalists auditioned. And now those who won those auditions are sitting with us, and that is Lorian Janine from Detroit originally, and Ki5 Loops, who is originally from Ann Arbor. Is that correct?
That's right.
Excellent. That is the story of Amplify Fellowship. Definitely not going to tell that every time that we, have our podcast, whatever, so don't get used to that. So customarily, again, in this podcast, what we do is we talk to people around us and hear from them about not only about what they're doing, but we talk through an album or whatnot that really had a permanent effect on their lives. And transparency, I didn't proof our fellows about that part of our podcast, but instead what we'll talk about is kind of what they've created in the past and what they want to do moving forward. I think that that's a good place to start. So, first of all, how are you guys doing?
Why don't we both look at each other? I'm doing well. I have a lot of new and exciting things happening in my life. So it's almost like I love roller coasters. I don't know. But the thing about a roller coaster is that you don't have time to breathe because it's so much, but it's so fun. So that's really that's kind of describing what my life is right now. Is I love roller coasters. So my life is currently like a roller coaster ride. It's exciting. Every now and then it's like, I'm at.
We should do an Amplify Cedar Point.
Oh my God.
Can we please?
I would love it.
We could.
Y'all don't understand. I love roller coasters.
Cool.
Starting to get an idea. So you love roller coasters. What's your favorite roller coaster?
The Millennium Force at Cedar Point.
Great choice.
Yes.
Great choice.
By far. You know, I've never been on a dragster. Dragster is the one that every time I go there, it breaks down, so I never get to get on.
Oh, you
I've
want
never
to?
got. Yes, I've been
Whoa.
trying to get on for years. Like
Right.
every time I go there, maybe
That's
maybe
like the one I don't
it's-
want.
it's pretty
do.
scary.
Yeah.
Do you
It's scary. It's fun though.
do you consider yourself to be a risk taker?
No.
Ah.
I don't know. Maybe I am deep down, and that's why I love roller coasters. But I don't feel like I am. I think it depends on the situation. Depends on what it is. If it's something that I really believe in, and I feel like it needs to have some kind of person to like lead it and take it, then I'll do that. But if it's not that, if it doesn't have like a driving force of motivation behind it, or something that I feel like I need to stand for, usually not. You know?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
How your love for roller coasters could transition. Like, how does it translate into your regular life?
I think I'm a lot of stuff deep down, but on the surface, people, I'm pretty. Like my partner, he just said, "You have the best like poker face," like because a lot of times when I'm nervous, you would be able to tell. Like when I'm nervous and when I'm. Meanwhile, in my mind, I'm like, ah. So.
In all transparency, Lorian, met when she was a summer camp counselor with the Upper Bound program that I work in. And she got an opportunity to work with high school students for 5 weeks straight and stay overnight in the dorms. What was that experience like?
Oh boy, it was a life-changing experience. And I had already been working with youth for some years. I love doing that. I love mentoring, love tutoring. But this was on a whole new level because it was seeing them inside the classroom and outside the classroom and trying to figure out how to handle their situations and their lives and their personalities and things that they were going through at home, and then also trying to help them focus on homework. Like it was really living with teenagers, a whole group of teenagers. And so I learned so much about life, about myself, about the fact that I've always been known to be a patient person, but I realized I was not as patient as I thought I was. I learned so much. Yeah, I think I have been an empathetic person, but I learned a greater level of empathy. And I realized how much I can handle that I didn't realize I could handle. So that's just a tiny list of things that I learned from that experience. As there were highs, there were lows, and if I had to choose to do it all over again, as rough as it was, I would. Like 100 times, if I needed to, 100 times over, I would do it over and over again because of how much I learned and how much it changed.
Fantastic. So let's talk about your life. Born in Detroit.
Ooh, I love Detroit.
What is it about Detroit that you love so much? I mean, other than it being home.
Yeah, I love the architecture that we have. Our buildings are beautiful. I'm not trying to brag, but buildings. I love the music and the art. Growing up, I came up in a musical family, both sides. Singers, like on my dad's side, it's a lot of singers. Now I'm finding out also artists because I didn't even know. So there are people who paint and dance. And then on my mom's side, it was a lot. It was dance. It was music. Like my uncle is a pianist. My other uncle is a drummer professionally. My aunt used to dance. So it's art everywhere. Like I grew up around art. Mostly gospel, jazz, and classical. Those are like my roots. And so my mom, when I was growing up, she used to always take us to events in Detroit. She would actually let me skip school to go to like cultural and arts events. Look, I can say it now because I graduated college, graduated high school, so now the truth can come out.
Right.
She did because she knew how enriching they would be, and she knew that like to some extent, school. I went to great schools, but it's like I want you to learn more. So she every now and then we would skip school and go to like the arts festivals and stuff in Detroit and music events, things like that. And those things really shaped a love and appreciation for music and art and those music and art from other cultures as well. And so yeah, that's what I love most about Detroit. It's just that it's such a busy place that has like so much going on in like art and music. And even now, it's a lot of new stuff like coming out of Detroit. So.
Absolutely. I see that. There was dance, there was music, there was Blue Lake. My wife went to Blue Lake. I mean, who didn't go to Blue Lake? Who didn't go to Blue Lake? Who was in orchestra and all that back in the day.
Blue Lake is a story in itself as well.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
Absolutely. You also talk about your faith and growing up in church. Yep. And I frequently believe that there is a difference in our understanding of music theory, or your generation's understanding of music theory, based on the fact that church is not I don't want to call it a proving ground, but it is an alternative method to learn music theory. And some would argue the best method, because it's connected to its versus more Western forms of music. Gospel is connected not only to the theory, but it's connected to the spirit. And I think one thing that we've always done is we've expressed our spirit very clearly through music. So take me back to Lorian in church. Were you singing, or were you doing other things? Was you with the what's it called, the streamer, doing the interpretive dance and all that?
I wish.
But you were singing, correct?
Well, so there's this thing where when you come up in a musical family, everybody tends to do a thing, and that thing becomes their thing. So you're not allowed to touch the other things. It's like there. So I was known as the violin person. You know what I'm saying? So I always put myself in a box of like, well, my sister is the singer, and this sister is the singer. This sister is the piano player. So that's like my place is violin. So I actually did not sing. I mean, we, as preachers' kids, we were in the choir, but it wasn't really like, I wasn't giving my all. It was fun, but I didn't necessarily want to be, But I was in the choir for a little bit. But I just sang because I was supposed to sing. But I wasn't actively trying to improve my voice. I just never thought that singing would be something that I did, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I was the violin person. So what I mostly did in church was serve in other capacities. Just, the typical things. You help cook, you help, you visit sister so-and-so, and like, just the typical things. So a lot of people probably would assume that I started singing in church, and I really didn't. Really, I did violin events. Sometimes my brothers and sisters, we would play at weddings and funerals, and I played violin for those things. I never sang at those things. So, but one thing violin does for you is that it helps you correct your pitch and things like that, because you are forced to. With violin, you have to make sure you're playing like in the right pitch. Right. And you have to learn how to tune without a tuner. And so violin actually, I didn't realize it, but unconsciously trained my ear. And so, I have really good ears, not necessarily because I don't think I have perfect pitch, but I have really good ears because I had to learn that playing violin. So, and that's just one thing. I learned a lot of other things: music theory, violin, how to collaborate with other people, how to make sure your sound is balanced, music theory, like violin, absolutely. All that stuff I learned by playing violin. So I'm grateful that I took that route. But yeah, that's kind of my church upbringing. And church was fun.
Ironically enough, London from last year played viola.
What?
And because I remember them sharing that as they learned viola, they found the ability to play everything. Mm-hmm. Because of that same pitch issue. And I think about when they sing, it's always pitch perfect. And that's not only a matter of technique, that's just instinct at this point too. So that's really interesting. And so you ended up singing?
Yes.
So tell me about how that happened.
That happened because of college. So I get to college and I'm now thrown into this, new world where you can just try different things. And so college was like the place where I noticed that we used to have open mic nights with this group called the Poetry Society. I
Shout
love
out to
poetry.
the Poetry Society.
Love
Who's
Poetry
that like?
Society. PS.
Ain't that like Asaka and them? And
They're a big deal.
Shout out to Gerard Allen. I think he started that back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, way back in the day. Shout out to Gerard Allen. You're an old man now.
I loved going to events on campus because I was used to that growing up. We were always going to events. If it wasn't someone's concert, it was me and my mom going somewhere. Like I was always. So when I got to college, it was like I couldn't live without going to an event or something. So every week I tried to go to like movie night, open mic nights, and I would just go for my own entertainment. Mm-hmm. But eventually, I took a risk, as you say. Am I a risk taker? Sometimes.
Risk taking.
Took a risk, and this was actually one night. I believe this was God. One night I just wrote a poem. I've never written a poem before, but it just happened. It was very like honest and raw, and it was kind of not even reflecting my own story, but the story of like my friends around me that I noticed, just them trying to live with this push and pull of like, I'm trying to do the right thing, but then all these temptations, like all of that and stuff that I was just seeing around me, and I could truly empathize with it. So I wrote this poem, and I was like, all right, now I finally have something to use to perform with. So I went, and I was nervous as heck, and I performed, and people were really like, oh my goodness, that was so good. And so that was my first time performing. Then, randomly, I decided to join an a cappella group that they had there. But I still wasn't singing in the group because they found out I could beatbox. So instead of singing, they had me beatbox. It's like no matter what I do, I just can't sing. So then I was in the a cappella group for a very short period of time. And then that became a whole thing. So I left the a cappella group, and then fast forward to the day that I realized, I told myself, you know what, I did multiple poems at that point. And I'm like, you know what, let me try to sing a song. Let me try to sing one of my songs, because I had written songs that I never felt like I could sing on my own. Okay. The first song I ever wrote, I actually asked my friend to sing it for me because I wasn't confident in my voice. And I didn't really have a voice because I wasn't singing, I wasn't practicing or anything like that. So I had these songs, didn't have the confidence to sing them myself, so I just never did anything with them. So then one day I said, you know what, let me try to sing one of my songs. And I went, again, nervous as heck, but I did it. And that became the beginning of me singing at open mic nights, like, as often as I could. So yeah, that's how that happened. Wow. Having the space to actually explore these different parts of myself that I didn't know I had, that's really what gave me the ability to sing.
So are you now one of those people that's like singing in the shower and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And
everywhere.
Acoustics in the shower, if you could ever capture that.
I also I forget that this is actually something that helped my voice. I used to do a lot of impressions growing up, like singing impressions. Don't ask me to do one. Don't ask me to do one, because every time I say that, people tell me, oh, let me hear one. I'm like, oh.
Give me one, please.
You can't do it on command. Like, you can't.
You can't. Yeah. No.
Lorian, if you don't do that, then you have to beatbox for us. Because you have to do one. You have to do one or the other.
It's been a couple years since I beatboxed.
That's all right. It's about to be 0 seconds. All right, we'll wait.
One or the other.
All right, coming up.
You got like a Lorian. Christina Aguilera?
I had some of everybody. I had a Cher. It was mostly people at my church too. Like I would mock sister so and so, brother so and so.
Wow.
And my family used to be cracking up. Like I was the person that just mocked everybody. So I was pretty good at it. So, but I didn't realize that was actually developing my ability to like do different things in my voice. Right. So when I got to college, I'm realizing like, oh, why don't I just try her run here? Why don't we just try? So I'm pulling from different people's voices to try to like find my own voice, and it helped a lot. So yeah.
You like Rogue from the X-Men. You can just kind of take from other people and use it for yourself.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I struggle with this a little bit too. Like, do you feel like you found your true voice? Like it's completely yours and it's not pulling from anyone else?
That is such a good question. I would say my beginning of like me beginning to sing, that was like my journey. Like I was like, what is my voice? Because I realized this was probably like freshman year of college, freshman or sophomore year when I was like singing at different events. I was like, I'm literally pulling from my sister's voice for this song, and the country singer that I like from it, and I'm like, what is my voice? What's my voice? So this has been a journey to find my own voice, and I realized that I have multiple voices. Like, you know how we have multiple parts of our personality.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm realizing. There's not a one. It's like 4 different ones that I have, and those are a combination of other people. So I don't even know if that answers it. But yes, that's a conclusion that I just recently came to. Like, you know what? I have a jazz voice, I have a country voice, and I have a worship voice. Like when I sing at church, there's a different voice that I sing versus when I'm singing a jazz song, or so I have like 4 different ones, but I think those are mine, but those are inspired by others. So I guess that's my answer.
Wow. I'm going to hear one of these other voices at some point. I'm sorry. That's really cool though, because we're shout out to Formula 734. We're working with young men right now on refining their skills to rap and talking to them through to see themselves through the lens of the rappers that they listen to. And I think we all kind of started by mimicking somebody, and to be able to use that to find your voice is extremely important. I want to talk a little bit about school, which you got about 72 hours left?
Yes.
Whoop, whoop. At the time of nope, I can't even say that because this will probably be afterwards. Yeah. When this goes to press, you will be a college graduate. I'm gonna pop that up with a degree in
special education, cognitive impairment.
Wow. Yes. Why special ed?
Oh, the brief version of that. The very brief version of that. My mother, when I was younger, she used to babysit for special needs kids. She used to take me with her. And I developed an understanding, I guess you could say, a compassion, and an ability to work with people with special needs because of those experiences. Even though I had those experiences, I actually was not expecting to major in it. When I came to college, I was thinking like maybe elementary. I was still trying to figure it out.
Okay. I
definitely was not thinking special ed, even though I had those experiences. But I took a class that like changed my life. It was a introduction to disabilities course, one of the gen ed courses that you have to take as a education major.
Sure.
And the professor was amazing. The class was amazing, and it was really looking at
who's the professor?
Jason.
Got to give flowers.
Yeah, Jason. Oh my God!
Oh, you can't give him his flowers.
Oh, Jason. What was that name?
Shout out to Professor Jason.
And we used to just call him Jason. So
shout out to Professor Jason.
Professor Jason.
That's cool.
Professor
Jason.
Yes,
right.
I loved Professor Jason.
Jason real so bad.
He was awesome. The class was great. It basically was a class that caused you to look at disability from a completely different lens. And it was just mind blowing. So at the end of that class, at the end of the semester, he came up to me and he was like, "You seem like you really enjoy this class, or you really enjoyed the projects, because the project that we got was like super fun to me. I think I was the only one in class that was like, just like so excited to do this project.
Right.
And the project was basically you create your own scenario of what you might experience in the classroom, and you have to come up with multiple solutions to how to like solve the problems or whatever. And I was just like, boom, 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 boom. Like I was having the time of my life. And he was like, "You seem like you really enjoyed the project. Have you considered special ed?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "Well, you should." Literally weeks later, I switched my major and I never switched it back. So, that was it. It just took that moment of realizing, like, wow, you really, this is where you shine. And really, in special ed classrooms, it's problem, and the solution. It's just like all day trying to figure out stuff. So I don't know. I guess in a way, I enjoy puzzles, but not actual puzzles, but people puzzles.
Right. That's outstanding. I had my first opportunity teaching prospective teachers this last semester. And the level of optimism and hope that you work with in working with prospective teachers is just mind-blowing. And, obviously you exhibit that. And it's been especially challenging in lieu of what has happened recently here with Oxford. And, as well as, I will tell you that, this is probably one of the most challenging times to go into the teaching field.
Oh, yeah.
Probably the most time, at least during my life, during many people's lives. but it takes a person who is optimistic and hopeful and who has a heart that's built around service in order to be able to do this.
To be honest, there's a lot when you teach special needs kids. There's a lot you learn about humanity.
Absolutely.
There's a lot, and teaching in general, there's a lot that you learn, but specifically when you work with special needs kids, you learn a lot about just humans. And one of the things I was telling my partner about is like you realize that these kids are displaying the same things that we experience on the inside, but they just don't have the self-control to not display it.
Absolutely.
So like when one is throwing a tantrum, you realize, wait, when I'm on a road and somebody cuts me off, I'm really doing that too. It's just I have the ability to not display it. So it's just a lot. It's a lot of things I could do a whole course about, just how your perspective grows in that.
So I guess the biggest question that I can ask today is, as we start to look towards this project potentially that you want to do, is are you going to beatbox on the album?
What?
Let's just change.
Oh,
Let's
my
ask the real
God.
questions. Are you going to be?
Get to the nitty
I'm
gritty.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. So, what we were able to do, and what I believe about albums, I am a fan of albums, like projects that have some level of cohesion. It's not a collection of songs or anything like that. Because I believe that albums capture thoughts and events in a way that is very unique. Last year, keep talking about last year, everybody was going through a bit of a transition in a way. Okay? What kind of transition do you think you are going? And I mean, we're still going to be going through this for 6 months here. You got, basically 4 months of music creation to find this, but what kind of things do you want to capture about yourself and share with people with this project?
I think that great question. I think there's a lot of things about me that people would never know unless I had the opportunity to tell the story, or somebody asked me like, so what is, or what have you experienced in life, or what have you seen? What's your perspective on this? And so I guess this is a way for me to use my voice to share what I've seen, what I've heard, my perspective on things pertaining to life, people, just a lot of different things. I feel like this is just an opportunity to share my thoughts about the world.
Great.
Share my thoughts about the world. And in some cases, uplift people about the things that they may feel hopeless about. And I guess that's a very generic response, but that's really how I just see it, as it's like a microphone. Somebody passes the mic to you, and you okay, now I'm gonna just say what So all these things about my life. I know some of the things you'll hear is some things about education, some things about spirituality, about faith, love, the journey to love yourself, the things that you see in other people that you don't see about yourself, but you're like literally when people do certain things, you realize that it's also you. Like just that whole concept of you're me, I'm you. I think that's a really big, really important thing something that I find very important is just helping, something I try to tell myself, like, remember, they're you're, literally you just felt this yesterday. So have compassion, or you just went through this yesterday. So, so that those are some of the things that I know you'll hear in my music, some of the many things.
So we'll hear a little bit of everything. From a production standpoint, we'll probably hear a little bit of everything.
Yes, country.
Oh,
I love country. Yes,
country.
Different styles. I hope that I can do this.
Can you imitate a country?
Carrie Underwood. I've tried to do Carrie. I've tried to do Dolly.
Okay.
I've tried. I don't know if I've succeeded, but I really like Tim McGraw. It's hard to do male voices. Like I've not succeeded.
Absolutely, I get it.
So but yeah, some different styles because that's just who I am.
I think that what's going to make the biggest difference, one thing that is a part of the fabric of what we support is good songwriting. Good songwriting. So we're looking forward to some great music. We got a lot of great collaborators that are kind of circling this whole thing right now, and really just learning about you. There's going to be some things that you're going to kind of weigh whether or not you should talk about them. And I think that when you get to that point, I think that you will become Lorian Janine. And you'll make the right choice.
Yeah, well, they're learning me. I'm also learning myself.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a journey for both of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I'm definitely looking forward to that. But let's get over to Mr. Loops.
The one, the only.
And we've talked about, oh, you got a bracelet? I want a bracelet.
Yeah, just got these. These were a birthday present.
Those are great.
I love those.
I mean, you got like merch going
Literally,
on.
Got merch. So far, these are just for me. But yeah, I eventually long term. I was just telling Maya the other day. I was like, can we find someone who like does like wristbands? Because I decided that after doing a show in June, actually on Juneteenth, I was wearing like red and green wristbands and leaving like space in the middle, like representing like the black in the center there. I was ever since then I've been like performing with wristbands and then like weekdays, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put my wristbands on, and like now it feels like I use these like to help me, like I don't know, it's like helping to face the world, like not as like armor, but like kind of like putting on like a necklace or something, like this is who I am. Yeah.
Now you feel like the man all the time.
That's right.
Do you like throw the wristbands in the audience after you perform or something? You gonna start doing that?
We gonna get there. Once when I play Lala, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
There you go. Absolutely. So, Ki5 Loops from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
That's right.
I want you to finish this sentence. Ki5 Loops is
on a journey to self-discovery through music and making as much of it as he can, more than ever, for the people in the very community that he grew up.
Tell me about the community that you grew up in.
So, growing up in Ann Arbor, I had a lot of opportunities to meet really cool people, a lot of people who were involved in the arts in different capacities, going to a private school actually from 3rd grade through 9th grade, Rudolph Steiner. Everybody sang.
You're a Steiner kid?
I'm a Steiner kid.
You might know my stepbrothers then. My stepbrothers were Steiner.
Probably.
Robert and Matt Jones.
Robert.
Shout out to Robert and Matt Jones.
Shout out to Robert and Matt Jones. Not ringing a bell. I
need one of them horns.
Sorry for the interruption.
No. It's all good. Timing wise, we probably just like didn't overlap exactly. But yeah, other than singing, everyone played instruments and everybody did like hand working things like sewing and knitting. So I know how to sew, knit, crochet, all that fun stuff. Doing woodwork. I've made spoons. I've carved boxes. I've made a stool before. Used a sewing machine to sew pants. So like, lots of activities that are just like good to know how to do like in the world. And
can you do like embroidery too?
No, but the idea of doing it doesn't scare me because I've done many similar things.
You know what you should do?
What?
When you get famous, you should crochet your own wristbands and hike up the price.
Hike up the price.
Boom!
Right?
Made by the looper himself.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Correct.
Put them on Patreon.
That's right. Right.
There you go.
That's right. The top tier, you get some Ki5 made merch. Yeah. So actually really similarly to Lorian, but different in some ways. There's so many parallels in our stories here. So I'm the youngest of 5.
Wow.
Ki5, get it? And
Wait, is everybody else? I know we told this story, but does everybody else's name start with Kai?
no,
It doesn't start with K either.
no.
Okay.
Everyone does have different. We'll say everyone has atypical names. Where Kyler is actually probably the most common name out of all my siblings.
Okay.
Because my mother grew up in a class. Her name was Barbara, and she was in a class of 3 Barbaras, and she was like, "This is not going to happen to my kids."
Mm-hmm.
So my siblings are in descending order: Tamario, Shantori, Kristan, Tabriana, and Kyler.
Shout out to Tabriana. You need to say them names one more time.
That's right. Tamario,
Shout out to Tamario.
Shantori,
Shout out to Shantori.
Kristan,
Shout out to Kristan.
Tabriana.
Shout out to Tabriana.
Yeah.
And shout out to Kyla.
That's right. That's right.
I
D5.
love it.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
right.
it.
The
You will-
5. That's
they-
right. 5. Number 5 of 5. So we all played instruments. Actually, 4 of us played strings.
Okay.
Mostly violin. Starting. So I did violin. As young as I can remember, really. Doing some Suzuki training.
Oh, Suzuki.
Suzuki. That's the stuff. And
What is Suzuki training?
a specific style of like learning how to play music. There's like Suzuki for violin. I think also for like other instruments, probably piano as well. Just like a system.
Okay.
It's a system of training. And yeah, I had examples of people playing violin to kind of like look up to. So I was like young, doing recitals, got used to performing, and wasn't singing on my own or really looking to do that until kind of picking up guitar in high school because it looked like fun. And after learning violin and kind of getting better with like pitch and everything.
Crazy.
Based on my theory from earlier.
Exactly. Also having a background going to church and having like that kind of music influence, just like subtly absorbing it every week from people who know what they're doing, playing live in front of you. I just didn't realize how much music and really aside from like, being able to sing on my own, the understanding of harmony that would be central to what I do now.
Absolutely. It is.
And playing with my siblings, like we would perform together sometimes, and just got used to being able to hold my own musically. So in high school, when I saw my friends singing in a cappella groups, I was like, that looks like fun. I want to do that. So I joined an a cappella group senior year of high school.
Not us being twins.
I know. And then I did that all through college and loved it, and started doing arrangements for a co-ed a cappella group called State of Fifths at Michigan State. Shout out to State of Fifths.
Shout out to State of Fifths. Shout out to Michigan State. When was you in Michigan State?
I went there from 2009 to 2014.
Okay. Fantastic. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. What'd you study specifically?
So I studied computer engineering.
Okay.
So that was the kind of the practicality kicking in after high school, where I was always interested in music things. I didn't really consider studying music because if I had at the time, like, I was only singing in that extracurricular. I was playing viola in symphony orchestra, and my teacher, a awesome violist named John Madison, who often subbed with the Detroit Symphony. He said, he's like, you're good enough to keep playing, and like,
Right.
You're good enough to do this for real. But I didn't like practicing the viola enough, and like I thought it was fine. I thought it was really fun to know what I'm doing, but I wasn't in a place with viola that I really wanted to work at it and such. Where I would realize later my voice was a thing I would want to do that felt really connected to me, but violin and viola, it was always like, oh yeah, good to know. And I liked knowing things, but I didn't like pushing myself with it. Whereas
Right.
I want to push myself with my voice now, but we'll get there. So I studied computer engineering to have a evergreen degree, so to speak, and to be a part of a growing field, probably get into either software development or electrical engineering. That's the flexibility of computer engineering, right? Kind of in the center of those two things. And I worked out of college as a software developer, doing music on the side and really missing my a cappella group. And that's when I saw people looping and such online just with their voices. And I was like, that is so cool. I need to be doing that.
So one question I do have for you is, have you seen the Kimbra Plain Gold Ring video?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think that's like one of the most powerful like looping videos on the internet. I was wondering if you feel the same way.
Yeah. I've seen a few of your videos. I need to go back and watch now, because the further I get as far as like just the experience looping, the more I can see people who've been doing it for a while as well, and know exactly what's going on, or like pick up a few things that I wouldn't have been able to do when I first started. Now I can be just like, oh, okay, I have an idea how I could translate that or apply it to the music that I want to make. Definitely.
So one of the things that was, I'm going to pause there for 1 second. Let me check on my kids.
Yep.
And then
Good
we'll
idea.
talk about that. You said what?
Good say, good idea.
Oh, I mean, they're good. Take a breath. Back from
The heck, Kyler?
What
No.
What the heck?
I don't know. Why did we ever have this conversation?
I know.
We're also stringists.
That's right. That's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's why we're having this conversation now.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. We're
I
doing it.
love-
We're doing it for the people. For the people.
I honestly, if somebody asks what my favorite string instrument is, honestly, it's the cello, which is
Same.
I love.
Same.
The sound of
The
the cello
cello.
is just like
It's
Cello's
like
gorgeous.
It's
Right
like
in that
chocolate
range.
milk.
Mhm.
So good.
Mhm.
So, but I knew
It's
I
gorgeous.
wasn't built for the cello. I wasn't built for it, so it is what it is. But I love the cello. But I consider viola because I'm like, oh, it's rare, and typically people get more scholarship for that too because it's rare, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
But I was like, nah, let me just stick with violin.
Sure. Yeah.
That's crazy.
When's the last time you played violin?
Oh boy, I've been getting a lot of people this year. Him over there telling me, pick it back up. Since the last time I played with purpose and passion was probably
Purpose
2000,
and passion.
right? 2017.
Thank you.
2017, I would say.
Okay.
What you do is driven by technology. Or technology gives you the ability to convey it.
I like that. I like that definition. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Basically, my whole theory and mindset about education, I don't know if we talked about this, is that if you teach kids how to use equipment to create music, it is an entry point to STEM, to learning technology, to computer engineering, to coding, to all that.
Right. Right.
My dissertation is kind of rotating around that right now, but it's not quite there. But like, how has you have a computer engineering background? How has, acapella was, acapella is very organic in a way.
Yeah, definitely can be.
How has technology kind of accentuated your vision for, like, why don't you just make beats? Why don't you just make beats? And because you have music, you understand music theory, you understand technology, at least from my theoretical perspective. Why not just make beats and sing on your beats?
Right. So I love the human voice so much that I want to show what it's capable of on its own. That to me is actually more interesting a lot of the time than adding in other instrumentation. I was kind of reminded of this while Lorian was talking about doing different impressions, but a cappella groups, especially co-ed a cappella groups, are stronger because of the varying voice types that they have: a bass, baritone, alto, soprano, everything in between, and beatboxers. And with the loop station, I'm able to do all those things at the same time. I'm able to do my impression, like my best bass, my best mid-range, my best lead vocal, my best high floaty soprano-esque and alto-esque harmonies. So in that sense, I'm always trying to do my best to not put the technology first. But
shout out to Amtrak.
Shout out to Amtrak.
Sorry,
we don't sleep.
They are a fixture. It's a fixture.
That's right.
It's okay.
Right. It's a feature too.
Yes.
They don't sleep. They don't quit. They get you from A to B.
Right.
Amtrak.
Right. Shout out. Product placement. They've shown up in. It's a long story. They've shown up in everything that we've done.
I can't wait to get Amtrak on my album, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, that's why I love the loop station, because I'm able to in real time put all those things together and let them shine on their own and together simultaneously. And for me, I'm so happy to be able to make it about something very human, because I get to show off the human spirit through technology. And the very first kind of primitive idea where the name Ki5 came from, even though it is very convenient that I'm the youngest of 5 siblings, is I use an RC505. That's a 5-track loop station, because I was thinking about, like, this is how I literally, like, split myself up and leave myself behind out in the world, and I was just like, oh, that makes so much sense for me. I am Ki5.
Interesting. So you leave state.
Yes.
You have a degree in computer programming,
computer engineering.
Engineering. Excuse me. And what happens?
So I go down to Springfield, Illinois, working my first job as a implementation consultant, basically doing tax software at the one of the kind of states, state tax. What was it? Illinois, center of revenue or whatever.
Okay.
I try not to think about it anymore. So
did it suck as bad as it sounds?
You can barely get it out.
I'm sorry. It sounds like it sucked to the heavens.
Did it suck as bad as it sounds? No comment.
Shout out to Illinois state government.
It was really difficult. It was really difficult.
Okay.
It was definitely definitely a challenging time, especially starting without kind of that established social component that came over time, really having friends in the area, not having any music there.
Wow.
My time at state doing the a cappella group for 5 years, since I intentionally took 5 years to do my degree. I basically, my real major was in a cappella, and everything else kind of came secondary to that because of how much time and energy we put into it. And we loved it, and we focused on how can we get better every year, how can we do more and more and more. And then for all that to end, and the work day ends hopefully after 8 hours, but not all the time. And then you go back and it's man, I really miss making the kind of music with my voice, with people, which is, it was a few months until the loop station came into it. So I was kind of dreaming about what different things I could do, singing and playing guitar. And I did that with someone from work for a while. That was fun. But it wasn't until I started really singing again with the loop station, doing something new, that I started to really feel alive.
Were you able to use making music at all during that time to kind of be free, or?
Yeah,
okay,
I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing cover videos and such.
Okay.
Writing some songs then, and that's just it. Like it was fine. It was fine. It was like similar to what I would do like in high school, like after school, if I had some extra time. Oh, I'm gonna like learn how to play this song. I think in that time period, it was a handful of like Need to Breathe songs and of Monsters and Men, and I think the occasional like Sam Smith cover, just like things that were coming into like my atmospheres. It's like, oh, I like that, I'm gonna recreate that and such. But like I wasn't even putting those like out anywhere. Like I wasn't even doing YouTube videos and stuff much.
So they say that in any DAW, like digital audio workstation, Pro Tools, whatever, they say that people who are experts only really use 30%, if that, of the DAW.
Sure.
At what point did you feel as though you had kind of mastered your square in terms of the use of that piece of equipment?
The loop station?
Yeah.
I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay.
And that's I'm about to come up. I think it's been about 6.5 years since I got it. But I very much up to this point have a really, really solid understanding of the basics and all the things that the loop station can do, and yet I only focus on, outside of the core functionality, a few of the possible effects and combinations of effects, because for me they get in the way more than they help.
So still like 40% or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how things work.
That's just how it is.
I mean, for me, when I first saw you at Ziggy's back in 2019. That was the first time I'd ever seen you. I think the Day Nights performed that night too.
Yeah.
To have the confidence to perform with a piece of technology, and not, it's different than playing the piano or playing the drums or whatever, because there is an entire skill set that's built around learning how to use that, and to be performative with it was something that was extremely impressive to me.
Thanks.
So, and that's why I asked that question, because you were able to do you were able to do mutes and all kinds of stuff, and take things in and take things out, and it was really like, I felt like it was more of an experience than I would have felt if I was just watching a band play. So shout outs to you for that. So
thank you, it's great to hear.
Absolutely. So your act works well in this environment. Of course I think it could translate anywhere, but you grew as a musician in Ann Arbor.
Yes.
What has Ann Arbor meant to you, and really Washtenaw County in general? And when we say Washtenaw County, what we're really saying is Ann Arbor and Ypsi. Let's just keep it a buck. No disrespect to Chelsea and all that. Dexter.
Chelsea deserves a lot of disrespect. So that is.
I don't even want to be like that. But I'm saying, like, I don't know if you ever did any sets or shows out in Chelsea. Have you? Or
I
Dexter?
have not.
What about Dexter?
No Dexter yet.
Mylan or Celine? Okay. So and again, no judgment. I'm just saying, whenever I say Washtenaw County, I feel like what I'm really saying is Ypsi and Ann Arbor. But we're trying to, maybe we can change that one day. What is Ann Arbor, like, how did Ann Arbor play a role in your cultivation of a musician?
Yeah.
As a musician.
Right. So it starts from when I was young, being able just to see it, to hold these events, like going to like summer festival every summer, and just being able to, like, I would be out there hanging out with my friends and different people playing sets on the multiple stages that they have there, seeing people, both like, big bands and people who are solo, and actually a shout out to high school classmate Dan Hinnick, who I saw out there. He actually did some looping. I remember he played a
shout out to Dan.
A little set in the little beer garden, where he did some looping, and he was always someone who was like my same age, who was like out there trying to get it, like right from when we left high school, just like, I'm gonna make music my thing. So it was inspiring to see. So it was really a matter of me wanting to show up in Ann Arbor, and Ipsy was like, yeah, we got you. Like, you need a place to play. Like, all right, here's this place, that place. And then, you know, kind of pairing my progression with the further development of places that were coming up in the community. So like when 734 Brewing opened up, they were new. I was kind of new to performing around the area. Yeah. And so like we just like talked to each other. So it's like, hey, it's like, are you guys interested in having musicians come in? And they're like, yeah, sure, come on in. And like being able to use this community as like a space to both like work on my skills and get my name out there and everything. Right. That's been just huge.
Shout out to Brian Jones-Chance and the Association for the Businesses of Color here in Ipsy.
Absolutely.
And shout out to 734 Brewing. That's where we did the first Dirty 30 and all that stuff. And it was just, they just did the same thing for us. Dirty 30 was, we give you a sample, you got 30 minutes to make a beat out of it. And we'll listen to the beats and, you know, we'll have some judges and whoever makes the best beat will win whatever money we collect that night.
Awesome.
And they were like, okay. They just kind of said, okay, that's what you want to do? Come do it.
Yeah.
And we did. So it was fantastic. So shout out to 734 Brewing.
Yeah.
So because of that, that's why our initial discussions about your project has been about kind of encapsulating all of these diverse sounds in Ipsy and Ann Arbor. So let me back up a little bit. I think that I've always felt that since I've been back here the last 4 years, the strength of the place is the diversity of the place. Like the diversity, not only the diversity of the people, but also the diversity of music and how easy it is for all these different types of music to intermingle in a way. So I would love to, when we brought you on, one of the reasons was we just felt like you were a good centerpiece to be able to engage with all these different kind of diverse sounds to see what would happen. What, like, when you visualize what a project like that would look like what kind of things come to mind for you? Like, what, I guess, well, I'll just say that first. Like, how does that sound? What was your reaction to that thought? You know, tell me where you were.
Yeah, I'm really excited by that notion of expanding and using the diversity of like who's right next door to make something really, really strong. I think sometimes it feels, because I do mostly a cappella stuff, that like it's like I have something against instruments, but I actually love instrumentation. It's just that I know my personal specialty all revolves around the voice.
Absolutely.
What excites me about doing a project that's more collaborative is even if it's just other singers, we get some vocal diversity on any particular track, but also expanding into like different people who play instruments, frankly, better than I could.
Sure. And
also give me new ideas, like things that neither one of us would have come up with on our own. That is the bread and butter. That is the strength of collaboration. Absolutely. Is that like we do things together that we couldn't do and wouldn't do on our own, quite frankly.
Right.
So I'm really, really excited to use what's kind of always been at our fingertips, which is like circles back around to the point of Amplify, is like, you know, take a signal and make it stronger.
Absolutely.
Like, I've been out here kind of like by myself, like me against the world. We're making everything. We're using our voice. We're going forward. And like, an Amplify's coming, like, you don't have to do everything yourself. And it's like, all right, like let's make something together. Like let's help each other out. So I think I'm really excited for myself to grow by making space and like letting other people come in and enhance me. And I want to do my best to enhance other people and to lift them up.
Absolutely. And still be able to keep that voice.
Yeah.
Being able to keep that at the center.
Yeah.
And being able to really honor that, just as we want to honor this place geographically, honoring that voice as, you know, really not just honoring it, but cherishing it and showing what its capabilities are. I'm all in for that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
what is your perfect situation? Like from a musical standpoint, like, where do you want to be in 5 years?
Where do I want to be in 5 years? I want to be able to play out and about as much as I want to at that time. That would be really fun. I want to be making a comfortable living off just my music. I want to be doing really interesting projects. I want to be collaborating with really interesting people, and as well as playing locally. I want to be able to travel and do tours centered around music, and also have the ability to do some workshops here and there, because I think to teach other people, I think, is to really display your understanding of something, and also as a way to not take it for granted either, because I'm the loop station thing for me didn't just happen. And one of the things I'm doing now, working with the Neutral Zone, is like helping to spread just like the awareness that like people can make their own music themselves.
Shout out to the Neutral Zone.
Yeah, and like be able to grow themselves in ways that they didn't necessarily know were possible.
Excellent.
So that to me, that sounds like my perfect situation.
So,
yeah,
go ahead. You got it.
I thought it was kind of funny that I ran into you at the Silver show because the opener, whatever her name was,
Yeah.
like she kind of reminds me of like what I feel like as more artistic and with the voice and with repetition, like somewhere that you would like to be. So, like being like so that you can tour musically, but you can also do things like compose for like the New York Ballet.
Yeah, I did think that was really cool. Yeah.
And just like kind of her writing is at the center of everything, and then like just music things are happening around her. And I thought that was really
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. I personally, I really would like to see you get engaged in sync licensing.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely can see you. I think about the Seinfeld theme song a little bit. Doom, doo, doo, and they got a little bass on it. But I'm thinking like I could see you completely like having like placements on PBS specials, and because the music that you make is good, it's unique, and it's honoring of the human spirit again. So, and that's kind of like the tie and bind between both of you, is that this cohort is really built around touching people's lives. Not that our last one was not. There was, there was a great deal of connections and connectivity built from what our fellows built last year. But as we continue to grow this organization, I think that you guys represented what our strategic plan was pointing us towards. Our next step was to make sure that we brought in people for this one who could help us augment the community service aspect and element as well. So shouts out to Ki5 Loops. Shouts out to Lorian Janine. Let's start with you, Ki5. Where can people connect with you?
They can connect with me everywhere on the internet at Ki5 Loops. That is Ki5Loops.com. On Instagram, that's where I hang out the most. You can find me at Ki5 Loops. And on Facebook, you can find me at Ki5 Loops.
Excellent. And Lorian Janine.
Yeah, Lorian Janine on YouTube and Lorian Janine on Instagram.
Okay. Fantastic. So
I'm sorry, I just remembered my professor's name. Jason DeCamelis.
Jason DeCamelis. Shut the noise.
Jason DeCamelis, that was my favorite.
Say it. Wait. Say it louder.
Jason DeCamelis, he changed my life.
Say it louder.
Jason DeCamelis.
You know who Jason DeCamelis is?
I hope.
Jason DeCamelis is in my PhD cohort. Let me pop my collar like they did back in the day. He is in my PhD cohort, and sat next to me in every class
What?
that we took together.
Get out of here.
Shouts out to Jason the Camelot.
He's so cool. So chill.
He is
The
a
best.
monster. And I mean
He
that
be doing
he's
his
an
thing.
academic monster.
Yeah.
He is fantastic. I'm going to
Very
call
humble.
him when we leave here today.
Please do tell him I said hello. He is never forgotten, ever.
Shouts out to Jason the Camelot and the Big Ten cohort. And shouts out to Lorian Janine and Ki5 Loops, our 2022 Amplify Fellows. We have a lot of great things in store, and they're going to be creating music, and we want to make sure that we take everyone along on the journey with us. It is becoming more real every day. Things like this, just make it even more real. We want to thank our sponsors one more time, Grove Studios, as well as Leon Speakers. And again, this podcast was produced by Project Plugin. Any last words?
Ominous.
The way you said any last words. any last words. I think Lauren's gonna beatbox us out.
Oh my
Go ahead.
God. I should have known somebody was going to put me on
5,
the spot.
6, 7, 8.
Oh.
That's it. That's
Oh, yeah, the
Oh my shit.
That's the fam.
That's the first Zero Noise
Boom.
podcast, first, an
Wow.
actual performance.
Everything.
So we're gonna sit here, and I know we're about to roll out, but we're gonna sit here in 6 months, and we're gonna talk about this music, and I'm gonna have you listen to this before we meet again, and you're gonna hopefully this whole thing will be a transformative experience for both of you. So until next time, this is Rod Wallace for the Zero Noise podcast. Support the artists and the artisans around you, because if the music stops, everything else does. Peace.